My name is Shannon Giordano, and I call this a journey today because it was one I myself was on this time last year with my twin boys. So today you are going to learn how to identify different types of aid, how to use College Raptor's free financial aid comparison tool, how to figure out the actual cost of college, how to find unique scholarships that you could win, and how to create a successful financing plan. And with that, I'm so excited to introduce you to Bianca Charity, College Bound Citizens.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bianca, and I'm a relationship manager for Citizens, specifically within our College Bound Citizens program. Now, as a national financial institution, Citizens is committed to giving back to the community with free resources. College Bound Citizens focuses on early awareness for high school students and their families to make informed decisions when it comes to college planning. Personally, I have immersed myself in this world. I've worked with thousands of students and their families, helping them navigate the college planning process. And I myself was a first-generation college student. So I'm so excited to be here today, and I'm going to pass it over to Grant.
Thanks, Bianca. I'm Grant Cooper. I've worked as a data analyst in the higher ed space for the last 5 years, and I'm joining from the College Raptor team. So College Raptor works directly with hundreds of colleges across the country to help them communicate their affordability to students and families. And we also work directly with students to help them find quality, affordable colleges using the tools on our website.
So starting with making a plan and having a college financing plan in place early is really key to success. So Shannon, I want to ask you, as a mom of twin boys, did you have a plan in place as you were going through this process?
Yeah, we did. I mean, we legit visited over 20 schools. My boys had very different interests in different areas of the country they wanted to look at. And we created a spreadsheet so that we could keep track of all the details. What did they like? How did they feel when they were on campus? And then I guess most importantly, we talked about the financing. So we were very frank with them about what's in their 529s, what their dad and I could afford to contribute on a yearly basis, and then what they would need to take for student loans or with student jobs.
Yeah, and I love what you said about having honest conversations and having those early. That's what this is all about, is early awareness. That's why this College Bound Citizens program exists. So you have access to this information and these resources early. But a couple other tips on this slide that I love here. So the first step is, I know this process feels very overwhelming, but the first step is to take a deep breath. And there's a reason you joined this call today. It's because you want to be informed. You want to empower yourself with this information. So just by taking this step of joining this webinar to give yourself access to these resources and this information, that's that first step that you're taking to having an informed plan. But a couple other great tips on the slide. So plan for the entire family, not just the eldest child, and then also plan for 4+ years of school. So something we've seen a lot are families that get stuck in a single year mindset, I should say. Let's just get through this FAFSA. Let's just get through this year. But you want to be planning for your entire family and potentially 4 or more years of school, depending on the track that your student is looking at. And then another tip on here is being realistic about fit. So we'll hear more from Shannon on having those honest conversations later, but balancing that academic, social, and probably most importantly, the financial fit. All 3 of those things are equally as important when it comes to coming up with a college plan. So with that, I want to move on to how do families pay for college? Families often use a combination of different resources to pay for college. Now that might include past income, like savings, current income, so think of tuition payment plans, and then future income. And then of course we have financial aid, so scholarships, grants, work study. So what you want to understand here is that every family is unique, every financial situation is unique, so this is going to look differently for every family. But what you see on the screen, these are almost pieces of a financial puzzle that come together differently for each family's college financing plan. So with that, at this point, I know most of you have not received your financial aid offers, or some of you received some of them. So this may be a refresher, but most of this should be new. So I want to kind of dive into financial aid offer examples a little bit more here. But first, I want to start with defining financial aid. So financial aid is any money provided to students and families to help pay for higher education. Now, there's a really common misconception that all financial aid is free money. I wish that were the case. Unfortunately, it is not. So some is free, others must be worked for, and then some even paid back. With that being said, most students will use a combination. So scholarships, grants, federal work study, and loans to pay for college. Now, we'll talk more about these 4 types later, but I want to start with scholarships. Scholarships, this is the best type of financial aid because it's gift aid. It's free money. Now, scholarships can come directly from the college and university, but there are also a lot of external sources as well, which we'll get more to later. And then grants, another, the other best type of financial aid because it's gift aid. It's completely free. But where it differs is that grants are awarded through the federal government, state government, and then directly through the college and university. And in order to qualify for any sort of federal grant, you have to fill out the FAFSA every year that you're in college. And then federal work study. Federal work study is a campus-based aid program that allows a student to work during college so they can earn extra money towards their school expenses. And then lastly, loans. So loans are funds that will have to be repaid once a student leaves school or graduates. There are both federal loans directly through the federal government for filling out the FAFSA, and then also private loans that are offered through private lending institutions like banks. But again, takeaway here is that most students use a combination of these resources to finance their education. And moving on from that, I want to actually show you a financial aid offer example. So once a student has completed their FAFSA, behind the scenes, there are calculations that are being done by the school to help determine what a student's financial need is, ultimately affecting what their financial aid award is. So we can see an example on the screen. This is a financial aid offer. And in this case, this student John Smith has a cost of attendance of $56,000. Now that's just for 1 year of school. And these offer letters, they can differ from school to school, but usually they're going to contain the school's offers of scholarships, grants, federal work study, along with any federal loans that the student qualifies for. They're also going to make the student aware of their unmet need, that's often referred to as the gap, and that's the amount of money that a student is going to have to come up with out of pocket to pay for their schooling. So we see John's cost of attendance is $56,000. In this financial aid package, he had a scholarship, grant, and a few federal loans in there. Now, the aid given to this student will be subtracted from the school's cost of attendance, leaving this student with a total gap of a little over $30,000. Now, keep in mind, that's just for 1 year of school. That number can change in future years depending on grades or other financial factors. And then something else you want to keep in mind is that this financial aid package, it's not including any potential external scholarships that the student qualified for. So this is just the university's aid that's being awarded. So at this point, John, he got his financial aid package through the college, and he still has a gap of over $30,000. So now we're going to have to think about how is John going to be smart and fill that additional gap in funding. But before we move on to that, I want to show you another financial aid offer example. Might be a little bit hard to see on the screen, but we want to share this because financial aid offers, they can differ a lot from school to school. And that can be confusing for families that are trying to make sense of them, and especially if you're applying to multiple schools, multiple of them. Like we heard in Shannon's case, I know she had to navigate a lot of financial aid offers. So some examples we've seen are schools that will lump in gift aid with loans. And that can make it confusing for families that are understanding what's going to be free to them versus what's actually going to be paid back, what I'm actually going to have to borrow. Another example we've seen are indirect expenses not all being added into the financial aid offer. So things like maybe food or transportation fees, maybe those not being added in here. So that can kind of skew the figures a little bit. But Shannon, just speaking from your experience, what was your experience with the financial aid offers?
Yeah, to your point, they were vastly different from one another. None of them looked the same. They were apples to apples. And we used the College Raptor financial aid comparison tool, which we'll have a demo of soon. And that helped us quite a bit to understand how they really compare to each other. And I will say the biggest aha for me was that the financial aid offer is not final, that it's negotiable, that one of my sons was deciding between 2 schools that were vastly different in cost, but we were able to take a merit package from a like school and ask for more money through an appeals process. And he ended up with more merit aid that way. And we also just talked to the financial aid people and said, are there any other monies available? Are there grants available? And there was a grant available to him at that time. So I would never have known that you could ask for more like that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of families don't realize that is that these financial aid offers, they can be negotiable. You can have honest conversations. So just like Shannon did in her case, having that open line of communication with the financial aid offices, that's so important. They are a resource. They want to help you. They want to talk to you. So definitely, follow her steps. They are negotiable and they can be discussed. So with that, we want to show you more resources that College Raptor has. So we're actually going to pass it over to Grant to do a financial aid offer comparison demo.
Thanks, Bianca. So I am sharing my screen now. I'm starting here on the College Raptor homepage. I'm already signed into my College Raptor account. If you don't have one, it's super easy to create. You just answer a few questions and it gives you access to all of the free tools on collegeraptor.com. So from here, I'm just going to navigate to compare financial aid offers. So you can see I already have a couple uploaded, but I'm going to upload a new one just to show you how easy it is. So I'll hit add a financial aid offer. And there's just a couple of questions that it's going to ask you before you can upload. First, we need to know what college are you submitting the financial aid offer for. For this example, I'm going to show one from Providence College. And also, it's going to ask you what academic year is the student, and we'll do one for a freshman year student. And so there's actually a few different ways that you can upload the financial aid offer. You can text it to us. If you have it on your phone, you can just enter in your cell phone number and text it in. You can do a file upload if you have it in a format such as a PDF or even an image like a JPEG or a PNG. You can upload it and we'll parse through it. Or if you don't have it in an easily accessible file, you can just add in the fields manually. So I will show a file upload here from a PNG. Find my file and grab it, and then just hit continue. So actually, the first thing that it's going to bring me to is a page where you can redact any sensitive information. So a financial aid offer is liable to have a little bit of sensitive data on it, stuff like your name or your student ID or maybe a few other things, stuff that you don't necessarily want to upload to the tool, which is totally fine. So the tool is actually going to go through, parse everything, and automatically try to pick up on any sensitive data that you wouldn't want to have in there, such as your name or student ID, and automatically black it out, redact it. But if there's anything that it didn't pick up on or anything that you just don't want to have there, it's super easy to just hover over it, click, and cross it out yourself, and then it won't get uploaded, it won't get saved. So it looks like this one did a pretty decent job of removing any sensitive data that I wouldn't want and just keeping all of the numeric fields that I'm interested in. So I will scroll to the bottom and hit continue, where it will take me to my financial aid offer summary page. So this is where you can start to see some of the bigger numbers. We can look at the full tuition of $63,000, the total cost, which includes not just tuition and fees and room and board, but also the indirect costs, which is $84,000. And then all the grants and scholarships for the student, it was $23,000. And that brings us to our net price, which again is just our total cost minus the grants and scholarships of $61,049. So it's a little bit high for this student. And I actually want to highlight some of the inconsistencies that we might see between different offer letters from different schools, is that you might notice that this College Raptor net price of $61,489 is not exactly what it's showing on the financial aid offer. So let's look at why that might be. So if I pull up the aid letter here, I can see all the costs, and I'll scroll down to the net price, which it's showing for this student of $52,890. So that's quite a significant difference between the two. There's actually a couple of reasons as to why that is. So the first thing that's causing this difference is that this net price on the actual financial aid offer is only factoring in direct costs, so the tuition and fees and housing and meals. It's not factoring in any of those indirect costs like books and supplies, travel expenses, or any other or personal expenses for the student. The second difference here is that it's also subtracting out the federal direct loans from the total price of $5,500, which is not the case for the College Raptor net price. The College Raptor net price only subtracts scholarships and grants, free money that you don't have to pay back. These federal direct loans are something that you're going to have to eventually pay back, so that's not factored into your net price. That'll be part of what you're actually paying. So that's just a couple of differences there. Secondly, I want to highlight this next part, which shows the estimated debt at graduation. And for this student, it's relatively high for this school, a pretty high net price of $61,000. And there's a few different assumptions that go into this number. So first off, we're expecting that you or the family is paying a little bit out of pocket each year. So that's going to be based off of your student aid index or your expected family contribution, as it was previously called, which you'll get from filling out the FAFSA and you can store in your College Raptor profile. So that's this first number. It's also assuming that you could participate 10 hours per week in a work study. And it's also assuming you're going to graduate in 4 years, which not all students do. It's a good thing to be prepared for. And then it's going to come up with an estimate of starting salary. And that's coming from a number of different inputs as well, such as where the student's located, what college they're going to, any majors that they might be interested in studying while they're at colleges, and a few other fields. So for this student, it's coming up with an estimated starting salary of $66,000. And finally, it's estimating a standard 10-year debt repayment. So these are all also fields that can be adjusted. You can adjust these assumptions when we get to the Analyze and Edit page, which I'll show you here in a second. So with that, I will hit Save. It'll take me back to my results page where I can see all 3 of my financial aid offers. And I'm going to click on Analyze and Edit for the letter that we just uploaded. And this will take me to the Edit screen where I can see all the different fields listed out individually. So on our left-hand side here, we can see all of the cost of attendance in individual features broken out one by one as it was read from the financial aid offer. Below that, we see the grants and scholarships, the $23,000 that the student was provided in institutional scholarships. This is also a great place where you could add any private scholarships or anything that might not have been already included on the financial aid offer. This would be the place to add it. Below that, we get into the paying for college section. So this is where the loans and the student and family contributions come in. So for example, we said we're pulling in this number from the student aid index, the SAI, but you can adjust this number too. So if we say, maybe this family feels like they can pay a little bit more out of pocket each year to try to reduce the overall debt, maybe they can do $15,000 a year instead of the $8,000. You can adjust it there and just click Adjust Payments for me, and it will take that difference directly out of the student loan allocation. So it's super easy to do that. Up on the top right here, we can change some of the assumptions if you have a different idea of what the estimated starting salary might be. If you want to estimate a little bit more conservatively or either way, you can change that, and also the monthly debt payment you can change. So with that, I will discard my changes and go back to the results page. So from here, it's super easy to compare the net price and debt at graduation on a real apples to apples basis. These are all, consistent terms that we're using across each of the schools, which is probably not going to be the case with the actual offer letters that they were handed. So one thing to notice here is that some schools that do have a higher sticker price, like Stanford, for example, which is now up to like $80,000 or $90,000 a year in total cost of attendance. Some of these schools can actually be pretty generous with their financial aid packages for the students that need it. So for this particular student, it was only about $15,000 for them to attend Stanford, whereas $21,000 for University of Wisconsin-Madison and $61,000 for Providence College. So definitely a large range of values in net price there. So net price and debt at graduation are just a couple of metrics that go into the final college decision. Some rather important ones, I would think, but certainly not the only ones. So hopefully this tool can make that college decision a little bit easier. And with that, I will pass it back to Bianca.
Thanks, Grant. No, I love that tool. And my favorite part about it is how it really breaks down the net price. And I think it also opens families up to options that they didn't even realize that they had. So you made a great point that some families won't, you see these high initial cost of attendance schools. So some families may not even consider it as an option. But what a lot of people don't realize is that those schools may have additional institutional funding that they offer that can make them just as affordable, if not more affordable than some state schools out there. So thank you so much. I think that was a great demo. And with that, we hear more about filling the gap and seeing that net price, what we're going to have to pay out of our own pocket. So your main priority when it comes to filling that gap in funding should be exploring any external scholarships that are out there. So gift aid. So I'm going to move on and talk about some of the different scholarships and the different factors that go into them. Now, there are scholarships for probably everything that you can possibly think of. So there are merit-based scholarships that may be based on academic achievement or maybe community involvement. There's needs-based scholarships where they may look at your household's financial need. And then there's also private scholarships. You can see some funny ones on the screen. I mean, there's scholarships for everything out there. We have seen scholarships for students who are left-handed, who have naturally red hair, who are good at computer science. Whatever makes you, you, there's probably going to be a scholarship for it. And one thing to keep in mind is that certain scholarships may have stipulations that are outlined in their application. So let's think of an athletic scholarship. They might require a student to continue playing a certain sport while in college. Or an academic scholarship, they might expect a certain GPA to be maintained. And then the amount awarded for every scholarship is going to range depending on its source. So a college or a university, they may be able to offer a large annual scholarship, let's say $15,000 a year. But a smaller private organization, maybe a local community organization, they may offer a smaller scholarship, maybe $500, but no amount's too small, especially because there's no limit on how many scholarships students can apply for. And that $500 scholarship, that could pay for books, that could pay for unexpected fees that come up. So don't limit yourself. I think where a lot of students find this challenge is that students and families are just so focused on getting into college, the SATs, the standardized testing, maintaining GPA, that we're not thinking about the financial fit of a college and also exploring scholarships to make it a financial fit. So it's so important. And what I want to challenge students to do is create a list. Starting around your junior year, create a list of maybe local scholarships you could apply to. And there are so many sources out there. A couple that come to my mind, so local organizations like American Legions, churches, local clubs, banks offer scholarships, employers. I know we have a lot of parents on this call. Look into your employer. They probably have a scholarship for your student. So I really want to empower you to start that list early. Let's not wait until, the last minute when we have that tuition bill due. I want to empower you to create a list just like we heard Shannon do. And with that, moving on to more scholarship tips. Shannon, do you have any additional tips on scholarships?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a parent and one who would be responsible for paying for college, I wanted to jump in and apply for all the scholarships on behalf of my kids, but it's sort of a no-no to do that. So encourage your children to apply for scholarships. And there are scholarships out there that parents can apply to on behalf of their children. So definitely go ahead with those. And the other thing is sort of know your kid. I know my boys would rather do anything than write an essay. So we use the College Raptor scholarship search tool to find scholarships that did not require an essay. There are plenty of them out there.
Yeah, know your kid, find scholarships that interest you that you're actually going to apply for. Another example of that is don't waste your time with certain scholarships. So let's say you're doing your research and you're a junior and there's a scholarship for seniors only. Don't waste your time with that one. Wait until next year. Also make note of deadlines. There are so many deadlines when it comes to financial aid. Again, the colleges have their own deadlines, state grants, the FAFSA, and even scholarships have deadlines as well. So pay attention to those, add those deadlines to your list. Get recommendation letters if needed. It's good to start getting these around your student's junior year of high school, especially because some of those more prestigious scholarships may ask for letters of recommendation. So always better to be prepared. But with that, we always want to provide you with resources as well. So Citizens is so proud to award 17 scholarships throughout the year for current high school seniors. So that is a $2,500 monthly scholarship, a quarterly scholarship for DE&I efforts. So that's $2,500 awarded for minorities and members of the LGBTQ plus community. And then a $15,000 yearly winner. And this scholarship is a very easy one you can add to your list. You heard Shannon say, know your kid if they don't want to write an essay. This one you don't have to. So what you can do is get your phone out, scan the QR code on your screen. There's a brief, maybe 60-second form that you fill out on our website, and that puts your name into the monthly yearly, and quarterly entries. Now, any high school seniors we have on the call, you can do this, but then parents as well. You can apply for this scholarship, which is actually going to double, triple your students' chances of winning every month. So highly recommend adding this to your list. And then College Raptor also has an amazing scholarship as well. So this is a $2,500 scholarship that is awarded 4 times per year. And similar process, scan the barcode at your screen, set up a profile on College Raptor. It's completely free. There is no cost associated with it. There is a brief essay that you have to submit for this one, but then winners are announced quarterly. So these are some easier scholarships that you can add to your list. Not the only ones out there. I want to remind you to do your due diligence and start that research now. I'll talk more later about College Raptor's amazing platform, our scholarship search platform. So moving on from that, keys to successful college financing plan. I think it's very important that we are being smart, that we're being informed, and a big part of that is determining responsibility. So responsibility comes down to 3 different parties, I should say: student, parent/sponsor, or student with a parent or sponsor. So some examples that you can see where it may fall under the student: applying for scholarships, grants, their work study, federal direct student loans. For a parent or sponsor, that may be exploring a tuition payment plan or loans out there, whether that's a Parent Plus loan or a private parent loan. But then we might have to combine forces as well. Maybe it means, balancing a tuition payment plan or doing a private student loan with a cosigner. But some things I want you to ask yourselves, and some things I want you to consider as you are determining that responsibility. What is realistic for us? What can we afford? You want to look at what your student's intended major is going to be and what their expected salary is going to be after college, because we want to understand, if we're taking out these loans, are we going to be able to pay them back someday? And then who is responsible for repayment? So something a lot of families don't realize is that with Parent Plus loans, that Parent Plus loans are solely in a parent's name, and they alone are responsible for repayment, not the student. And it can be very difficult to move that over to students. So that's just something I want to empower parents on the call to keep in mind. And then speaking of federal direct student loans, there are 2 types of federal direct student loans for students. There's a direct subsidized and a direct unsubsidized loan. In order to qualify for any sort of those loans, you have to fill out the FAFSA every year that you're in college. But the basic difference between the direct subsidized and unsubsidized loan is that the government is paying the interest on the direct subsidized loan while student is in school. But not all students are eligible for this loan. Only those demonstrating financial need will receive them. On an unsubsidized loan, you fill out the FAFSA, you qualify. Everyone can qualify for an unsubsidized loan, but you are responsible for the interest for the entire life of the loan. That's not to say it's a bad thing. Both of these loans are still very beneficial options before tapping into other resources, because they do have lower interest rates and flexible options for repayment after graduation. And then you heard me mention the Parent Plus loan as well. There is a federal direct plus loan for parents where financial need is not required. Now, federal loans, they have some great benefits. They have low interest rates, they're flexible with paying them back. I can't quite say the same for Parent Plus loans. These loans have a relatively high interest rate and a pretty significant origination fee. So you may have to borrow extra or pay something out of your own pocket to cover these fees. But this can be a viable option for parents that are challenged with a poor credit history or a high debt to income ratio. But something you want to keep in mind here is that this is a loan that the borrowing parent is solely going to be responsible for. The student will have no legal or credit obligation when it comes to this type of loan. Now, for those that are seeking more of a joint responsibility for borrower and cosigner, or maybe you want to leverage creditworthiness, that's when you want to consider a private loan, sometimes also known as alternative loans. These are going to be offered through private lending institutions like banks. Private loans are available to students, parents, grandparents, sponsors. And private loans, they're a little bit different in the sense that to approve a private loan, they look at creditworthiness. So they're going to look at credit score, credit history, income. So it's very common for a high school senior to not have those things established. So oftentimes they do need a cosigner when they're first starting out with a private loan. So you're probably asking yourself, why is she talking to me about private loans? And I think it's because we hear a lot of scary things. So we want to be informed about them, right? Private loans serve a purpose. They help fill that gap in funding when you have maxed out all of your other options. So you have applied for scholarships, grants, gotten the work study, but you still have that college dream that you want to happen. So private loan can be a way to fill that gap in funding. Plus, they do have some benefits as well. They're flexible options for repayment. There's no prepayment penalties. Typically, private loans don't have any sort of fees associated with them. And I think one benefit that's not often talked about enough with private loans is the potential to build your credit and use it to your advantage in that way. If used responsibly, a student can actually build their credit so they can take those other steps in their life after graduation. After college, any students on the call, there's a lot of different things you're going to want to do, whether it's buying a car, renting an apartment. Credit you need to have to be able to take those steps. So this can be an early way to start building your credit. And that was actually my story. My family member was kind enough to co-sign my private student loans for me. I made small, affordable, on-time payments while I was in school, and that built my credit history up. So after graduation, I was able to take those other steps in my life. But Shannon, I want to hear from you. What's your experience with private loans?
Yeah, so back to the federal loans, my husband and I both felt our boys needed to have some skin in the game in paying for college, so they are taking those loans. And then one of my sons had his heart set on a school that was a lot more expensive than another. And back to my spreadsheets, we laid it all out for him, what his student loans would look like. So we chose to use the College Raptor's student loan finder tool, and we actually ended up choosing a Citizens loan because the rate was competitive and we liked the multi-year. So there's this multi-year functionality where you can use it all 4 years. So we had him take a small loan that we co-signed for, and we'll be making the interest payments for him while he's in school to help keep it manageable, but he'll be taking it over when he graduates.
Yeah, so I think you're a great example of a private loan being used responsibly, but it's not the only thing you're using. You're also leaning into scholarships and other resources that you have in place, but you're also building your students' credit using a private loan. So thank you. And moving on, as a borrower, you can select any private lender of your choosing, but if you're not sure where to start, a great place is with your college. They're going to have a preferred lender list with credible, reputable lenders that have, the best benefits and rates to offer. But I also want you to have a starting point. So it's important that you have a starting point as well and that you have access to resources. So Citizens, we also, have private student and parent loans to help finance college. Now, some things you want to think about as you're exploring lending options: potential discounts and also competitive interest rates. For example, with Citizens loans, we do have a loyalty discount. We have an automatic payment discount that can help get you a lower interest rate. And then you also want to think about fees. So our loans don't have any sort of application, origination, or disbursement fees. And then earlier you heard me talk about getting stuck in that single year mindset. Let's just get through this year and then we'll figure it out later. But we don't want to get stuck in that mindset. We want to think about 4 years of school, 4+ years of school, I should say. So Citizens is one of the few lenders to have multi-year approval. Typically, the student loan process is annual, where you are going to a lender, having a hard credit check done, sending income verification. It can be a stressful process. Multi-year takes that away. It gives you streamlined access to funds in future years with no further hard credit check or extra documentation required. So it really just gives you that peace of mind that you're going to be covered from freshman year throughout graduation. So if you do have a need to fill that gap in funding, I want you to think about all of these factors as you are, potentially exploring lenders. But then with that, want to move on and just wrap us up. We are so excited to be here today. We have people all over the country that came in for this. Citizens has a lot of resources for students, and we have a lot of time in this industry. We have 40 years of experience in the education finance industry. So we know what families need to navigate this process. Our College Raptor platform has some amazing tools, like a college match tool. We saw the financial aid offer comparison. And then I would highly recommend senior parents on this call to check out our scholarship search. It's on collegeraptor.com. You can go there, plug in as much or as little information as you want, and it's going to match you with potential scholarships that your student is going to be eligible for. So I want you to think about that, especially if you have gotten your financial aid offer or if you're getting it soon. This can be a way to really fill that gap in funding and being informed about it. So with that, I want to wrap us up and move on to Q&A.
You all have asked some really great questions. Bianca, we're going to start with you on one of the questions that we just received. Can you speak to what it means when you hear loan forgiveness?
That's a great question. So loan forgiveness can come in different ways, I would say. So loan forgiveness, there is loan forgiveness directly through the federal government for certain things like public service forgiveness, people working in certain industries like teachers, some medical workers, police, military workers. There is loan forgiveness in that sense through the federal loans. But then there's also loan forgiveness for private loans as well in certain cases. You know, it's a terrible topic to talk about, but in the cases of death or permanent disability, there are loan forgiveness with private lenders as well. So different types of loan forgiveness, but it does apply on both the federal and private side.
Excellent. Thank you. Coming to you, Grant, does the scholarship tool work for current college students?
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll work for any year you are in college, whether you're just starting as a freshman in the following year, so if you're still a high school senior or just about to enter college, up through any year of college, there's plenty of scholarship opportunities for any level.
And I'm going to stay with you for a second, Grant. In the financial aid offer comparison tool, one of the first things you did was you scrolled down and you picked freshman. Can you tell us why it matters what semester the student is?
So it matters for a few different reasons. One of the things that is important when it comes to your academic level is, so say federal student loans, for example, that level that you're eligible for is going to change each year. If you're a freshman in college, like we just demonstrated earlier, you're eligible for up to $5,500 of federal direct loans, but that number will change next year, along with a couple other things. So it can make a slight difference what level you are in school, what academic level, even if your, say your tuition and scholarships are staying the same.
Thank you, Grant. Back to you, Bianca. Do trade schools offer financial aid, automotive specific?
I can't speak to automotive specifically, but yes, they do have forms of financial aid to help students. I've even heard of scholarships actually for different trade schools as well. So yes, there are different sources of financial aid. It may not be the same process as a traditional four-year college. So in that case, I would recommend reaching out directly to the trade school, their financial office, and they can guide you in what direction to go.
Perfect. Shannon, as a parent, what was the biggest challenge when it came to financing college?
I think it's that the decision is part in your heart and part in your pocketbook. So guiding my child, especially the one that wanted the more expensive school, to truly understand what the implications of that are and figuring out, how much the 529 will cover, how much we can afford to cover on a yearly basis, what his life will look like, what kind of job he can get when he graduates. We talked to the dean of the program that he was going into to find out what kind of jobs are available and what the starting salaries were. We pulled all this information together just so I could sleep at night.
And when you say spreadsheets, people on our call have been asking, does College Raptor have templates and Excel spreadsheets available? Do you want to take that one, Grant?
Sure, yeah. So actually a lot of our tools have export features. So you can, for our college match tool, for example, you can take all that data that you've gotten with all your colleges and your net price and export it to a .csv or .xlsx Excel file and use it as a spreadsheet if you're more comfortable in that kind of environment.
Thank you. Great answer. Bianca, a participant is asking or saying, I haven't gotten any offers yet. When will I get them?
Yeah. So this process this year is a little bit different. So I don't want you to worry. Financial aid offers are starting to come out this week. Actually, they're starting to come. That's why some of you on the call have received them. But there has been some delays with the FAFSA simplification. So over the next few weeks, you should see those financial aid offers rolling through. If you are concerned, though, I would definitely recommend reaching out to the school's financial aid office.
sticking right with you. Do you have to apply only once for a student loan?
Great question. So there's two answers to that. So for the federal side of things, for federal student loans, you have to fill out the FAFSA every year that you're in college to be considered for any sort of federal aid each year. So that goes for those direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans. So yes, for federal, and then also yes for private loans. You are applying for a private loan every year and getting approved for it. But I mentioned earlier having multi-year approval. Citizens, again, we're one of the few lenders that has multi-year, and it's an expedited process when you have that in place because you have access to streamlined funds in future years. So you're not having to pull together income verification or have a hard credit check done. So it makes it easier as you're going to request those funds in future years.
And Bianca, does being a single parent, is that taken into a consideration with some loans or programs available?
I would say in terms of private loans, they are looking solely based on credit score, credit history, and then your income, so debt to income ratio. So they're looking at that cosigner's information. One thing I will say is with private loans, specifically Citizens I can speak to, is we allowed household income to be added onto the application to give the best chance of approval. Also allowing other sources of income like alimony or child support. So yes, other external income sources can be considered.
Fantastic, thank you. See, another question. You mentioned a number of tools. Can you go down the list of tools and resources that are available on College Raptor?
Sure, yeah, test my memory a bit. So I can start out with sort of the earlier college planning. We provide a financial planner if you have young children or older children. It can work for both if you're just starting on planning for how much you'll need to save for college, whether that's using a 529 plan or a traditional savings plan, and just trying to get a good sense of how much you'll need to cover that gap. You can use our financial planner. I mentioned the college match tool, which is a great tool to use if you have students in your family that are not quite sure where they want to go to school yet. There's a special feature on the college match tool that will give you a personalized net price estimate for every college that you're looking at, which is quite unique for College Raptor. We also have, of course, the financial aid offer comparison tool. We also mentioned the scholarship search tool, which is great for collecting scholarships from not just private sources, but also institutional scholarships, so those that are from the college themselves, and also scholarships from the government, the federal government, state and local governments as well. We also have, as Shannon mentioned, the Student Loan Finder and tons of data about careers and majors. So what majors are good at, this particular school, what careers go with this major and vice versa, and, what colleges are best for this major that I'm interested in. And so tons of data around careers and majors.
I heard you have a lot of articles out there as well, and that you do rankings for colleges and hidden gems.
Yes, excellent. Thank you for reminding me. So we have thousands, literally thousands of articles to help students and families prepare for college, whether they're just looking at finding a college, worried about getting in with, say, college entrance exams, paying for college, all the way up through graduation and careers. We have tons of content. And as Liz mentioned, we also do an annual college rankings, not just a traditional ranking that you might see from other sources, but we also have a special list called our Hidden Gems rankings, where we highlight unique colleges that don't quite get as much attention as some of the bigger names or some of the more elite colleges, but are still really excellent schools all across the country.
Well done. Bianca, questions about your scholarships. So that we had a couple of questions that said, is it for any age? And then there was a question around employees, citizens employees. Is it one for them?
Yeah, so great question. So citizen scholarships, this is for non-employees. So citizen scholarships that we offer to the community, high school seniors are eligible and current college students. So you have to be a high school senior that is on the track of going to a four-year college, or you're already in college. plus parents as well. Parents can apply in addition to students. And then yes, colleagues are eligible for scholarships. It's the Citizen Scholars Program. We don't have that information out just yet. I believe that will be posted in April. But yes, we also do scholarships for colleagues and more details posted soon.
Thank you. Grant, coming back to you. This is a good one. When College Raptor comes back with a loan finder list of potential lenders, often there is a range of APR rates on fixed loans. What is the range based on? Credit score? Are there other factors or guidelines that differ from lender to lender? And how will you know what your individual fixed rate will be in advance? Don't want to have to apply to multiple lenders if I don't have to.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the student loan finder will display a different range of results. Some of the results will be a very precise estimate of the interest rate or APR that you're going to pay, and some of them might be a wider range if we don't have a good sense based on that particular lender. So one thing that you can do if you want to avoid doing a lot of applications and a lot of hard inquiries is do a soft credit check from different lenders. This can be an easier way to shop around without hurting your credit score. That's what I would recommend. But from the student loan finder, it's usually just based on how accurate we can get based on the criteria we have from each lender. So like I said, some of them will be, extremely precise. Some of them are going to be a little bit wider range, which may or may not be based on credit score.
Yeah, I just want to actually add on to that a little bit. So you can do soft credit inquiries with lenders to make sure that you're not having that hard credit pull every time that you're considering a lender and what rates that they offer. So Citizens, for example, we do that. We have a soft credit pull where you enter in some of your information and it's going to give you an idea of what your interest rates look like, what some different repayment options are for all of our different terms. So highly recommend exploring that because it's a way to get a sense of where you'll be at before actually committing to it. So.
Well, you all have done a fantastic job answering questions. And just to reiterate what's already in the chat, if you registered for this, you will get a follow-up email that will have this recording within it. We will also be posting this recording on Citizens' YouTube channel within the next week.
Citizens and their college planning platform, College Raptor, would like to thank you for joining us. We hope you'll look at the tools that you can see on the screen here, and we wish you a great afternoon.